Hey everybody, this is Dwight Peters from quarterwaters.com, the site for social entrepreneurs. Where social entrepreneurs come on the program, they talk about the issue they're tackling, the impact they're making, and share helpful business tips along the way. If you're watching this program, it's because you want to change the world through the power of business. You came to the right spot. Now in today's program, I have with us the founder of Thankyou Water, Daniel Flynn. Thankyou Water is a social enterprise that exists to fund safe water projects in developing nations. Daniel, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on the show, man. Appreciate it.
I stumbled across what you guys were doing a couple of months ago, and I was really impressed. You guys are based out in Australia, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Now,
Yeah.
you guys have found a way to create a business out of bottled water that gives away 100% of the profit. I don't even want to tell the story. You explain it to our viewers that aren't familiar with you what Thankyou Water is.
Sure, man. Well, that's cool. Well, look, basically, Thankyou Water, as you said, it is a bottled water, and we are a social enterprise. I don't know about you, but I think most of us are kind of under this idea that bottled water is kind of, to be honest, a bit stupid. We pay $2 and $3 for something that you get from the tap for free.
Yeah.
What the heck is that about? And we looked at that. But our kind of internal drive was not bottled water, it was the world water crisis. The fact that 900 million people still don't have access to safe water.
Yeah.
You got 4,500 kids dying every day because of unclean water. And we looked at that. And then we looked in Australia, there's a $600 million bottled water industry. I think around the world it's $50 billion.
Yeah.
And we went, wouldn't it be awesome to find a way to combine this kind of stupid industry, this crazy big water industry with the world water crisis. And that's what Thankyou Water is. I mean, the idea to the consumer is you simply make the choice. If you are going to buy bottled water for whatever reason, because it's a hot day, because your tap's not right next to you and you need a drink, then choose Thankyou Water. And by doing that, you're directly funding safe water projects in the developing world.
I had Brent Freeman on the program. He's the founder of Roost. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Roost. What Roost is it's an aggregator of social brands or cause brands, and you can get deals with those brands. And he was on the program, and we were talking about a statistic that just came out recently stating that 85% of consumers would switch brands if they knew that the other brand was given back in a impactful way, and if it costs us in the same price point, if they had a similar price point. So what you guys are tapping in is exactly that. You're giving people the ability to make a decision and still get the same convenience of a bottled water.
Yeah,
So
correct.
we got into how the idea kind of started, the impact that you guys are looking at, or the issue that you guys are looking at. But take us back to the original step. What got this going? Everybody has an idea. How did you guys bring this out to execution?
Yeah, man. Well, that's a good question. And to be honest with you, the answer is the last sort of 3.5 years. It hasn't been as quick as we thought.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty insane journey. But I remember back at day one, we were moved by the world water crisis. We had this big idea, but I think one of the guys in the first meeting said, can you even start a bottled water company? And we're like, that's a pretty good question.
Yeah.
Can you even do it? We had no idea, man. So I was 19 at the time, and we're going into first year uni. And we had a budget of probably about $1,000 between us all, like nothing.
Yeah.
And we did some research, and we found out you can start a bottled water company. Now, when I say research, I'm talking like university, first year level research. Like we're Googling how the heck do you start a bottled water company? We're calling up people, what is going on?
Yeah.
And we discovered, yes, you can do it, but to do what we wanted to do, we needed 250 grand to get it off the ground.
Ooh.
And I remember going, what the heck? Like, how would we do that? How would we come up with that?
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, I read in a book when I was younger. It was a business book, and it said this one line. And look, we've probably ripped it out of context, but hey, the line is, if the idea is good enough, the money will always come.
Yeah.
And we were like, you know what? This idea is good enough. It should exist. This should be on the market. And we had this boldness. And so we got to about the fifth factory, and look, when we met with these factories at the beginning, we kind of joke about it, but we were wearing our parents' suits at the time. We take the P plates down as we drove in the car park. In Australia, P plates is like, I don't think you guys have it over there, but it's kind of like basically you're still learning to drive, so you look young.
Okay,
so we took them as we come in the car park, and we kind of acted up. We're nodding our head at a lot of acronyms. We had no idea what they meant at all. And
fake it till you make it, man.
Exactly right. Now we got to about the fifth factory, and our plan of attack at the beginning was they'd say to us, "What are you doing?" And we'd say, "Well, we're launching a huge brand of bottled water here in Australia. It is going to be massive." And then they'd ask, "Well, what is it?" And we said, "Well, we can't tell you. It's confidential." And that little confidential thing got us sort of pulling the questions and pulling the facts out of them on what we're going to need. And we discovered we needed all this sort of money up front, and part of that was to buy our the bottle shape alone could cost up to 150, 160 grand.
Wow.
Just for the shape of the bottle. And then you had to do a run of about $100,000. That was your first run of product. And, and we were thinking full on. And look, some of these factories are saying to do business with us, you got to be selling minimum 2 million bottles a year.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're going to smash that, and we had this sort of young, naive confidence. And, it probably helped us. So we got to the fifth factory and we shared the vision. So this is what we're doing. We kind of dropped that whole confidential thing. And the guy opened up, man. And the guy right back in his chair and he goes, "You know what? I've been in this industry for 15 years and I reckon it's stupid as well," which I think is funny. He goes, "You know what? We've got enough money here. We'll bottle your brand for you. And we'll get rid of some of the upfront costs, and you just pay us the cost of the goods later on when you can." And so that was kind of our first big break. We then met with a CEO of a huge company over here that produces bottles, and they ended up giving us a bottle mold for free. Didn't cost us anything, and they donated 30,000 bottles, and we kind of got the ball rolling there.
Are you kidding me? It sounds like you guys got hit by the lucky stick.
And that's a good thought. And look, it gets a little bit better, but then it gets a lot worse, right?
All right. And we're going to get into that, right?
So it gets better in the sense that we went back to the factory and we said, "We're ready to go. We've got our bottle. We're all good to go." And they said, "All right, how are you going to sell the water?" And we said, "Well, we're approaching a company called Metro Beverage Company." Now, to give you an idea, when we said that, this guy at the factory, he rocks back in his chair and he laughs his head off. It's like, "Oh, you guys are awesome, but you'll never get in there. They're Australia's largest private distributor of beverages."
Yeah.
And they do big brands like, I'm sure you've heard of Red Bull and Lipton Iced Tea, and it's a huge brands and international brands. He's like, "You guys are no one yet. Start out small and one day they might be interested in you." Anyway, we didn't take his advice. We booked a presentation and we had 10 minutes to pitch, right? Now, in this 10-minute pitch, it was amateur hour. Like, we had a poster that a friend had done up on the computer of what Thankyou Water will look like. And we're like waving our hands. We're saying we're going to change the world. And, we had this one bold line, which was, you have an opportunity to be involved, right, with something that is going to change the world and take off, or you can sit by and watch someone else be part of it.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we did that. Now, it was a 10-minute pitch. We came out an hour and a half later with our first order for 50,000 bottles.
Awesome, man.
Full on, man. Like, you'd think we got hit with the lucky stick. But look, from there, things definitely got a lot tougher. I suppose we began to learn the reality of business.
Wait a second. I want to go, I don't want to go too fast. I got to jump in here and there. This was all in the first year?
This was in the first 3 to 4 months.
First 3-4 months, you guys got it rolling like that.
Yeah. So that was, the first order came in probably about 4 or 5 months after we begun. We'd done a couple of months of research, so maybe call it 6 months all up.
All right.
Actually, when we came out of that meeting with the order, we realized this is it. Like, the rubber's hitting the road. This isn't an idea anymore. This is actually going to happen.
Yeah.
But we had this freaky thought, which was, before we could fulfill that order for 50,000 bottles, we had to do some stuff that you're meant to do before you pitch your big idea. We hadn't even registered the company because we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
We hadn't trademarked. We hadn't done anything except a picture on a piece of paper.
Did you guys even have a website?
I think we paid like $50 for a domain name, but no website
All
yet,
right.
right? So nothing. And we added up the costs, right? So we added up all those different fees and the structure, and we had to buy our first round of labels, and it added up to 20 grand.
Yeah.
And I was probably freaking out the most about this 20 grand because it was like, we've committed to fulfilling an order. We don't even have the money, and we need not support. We need cash.
Yeah.
Like, we need real cash. And look, it was probably right in the middle of the whole global financial crisis, like back in 2008. No one's handing out free money anyway. But look, we did get someone who was so blown away that we didn't just have an idea and talk about it. We had the guts to go and make it happen. They ended up writing us a check as a gift for 20 grand. So it wasn't a loan. And they said, you know what, go for it. Smash it. We're so blown away. And that kind of got the ball rolling, I suppose.
So you guys get it up, you guys get it running, you guys get that shot of energy, which is cash, and you guys are able to start producing. You mentioned that things start to go downhill a little bit after that. Let's get into that part. That's something I really try to focus on my program. I don't want to give my viewers just a highlight of success. I want to give them a round picture and understand that, if you're going to go after something, there are going to be some hills and valleys that you're going to have to go through. So what were some of the challenges besides the obvious one that you're entering a multi-billion-dollar industry of bottled water? What were some of the other challenges that you guys faced along the journey?
I think pretty soon after that first order, we produced it, and we sent it out to this distributor. Now they got it straight away, that 50,000 bottles, and they started sending it out around the country.
Yeah.
Now this is before we had an office. We had one pallet of water, which is about 2,000 bottles delivered to my parents' garage, right? And we're all unloading it, going, this is unbelievable. Thankyou Water's real. This is the first time I've seen it. And we opened the box, and we all went quiet. And we kept opening the boxes, and we went real quiet because a third of all the product in every box, the label was scrunched on to the point you couldn't even read it. We're freaking out, right? So we call up this distributor, and we say, hey, we need to get the water back. We've got a bit of an issue. And he says, well, it's too late. We've already started sending it out right across the country to stores.
Wow.
And then I told the issue, and he goes, Dan, you're asking us to do a product recall, and they end brands once they're fully established. You guys haven't even begun. And he cracked it. He got real angry. He said, don't give people second chances, but you know what? You've got one. Don't ever stuff it up again. So that was our first taste of the real world. From there, we got new product produced, and we sent it out again. And it was a pretty crazy time. I mean, I remember when the labels were scrunched up, we called up the factory and said, what the heck is going on? And they said, we're so sorry, but our quality control guy was away when we ran your product. We're thinking, is that even legal? Can you even do that?
Possible? How? Yeah.
It's crazy. And anyway, so we got the new product produced, and it was all good, and sent it off again. 6 months later, we'd built up to 350 stores stocking the water around the country. It was 6 months of blood, sweat, and tears, knocking on doors, getting a lot of rejection. And after 6 months, our factory, our first factory, I should say, had a good heart and kind of promised the world but couldn't deliver. And so for a 5-week period, they didn't supply Thankyou Water.
Wow.
Now, that may not sound like a long time, but over those 5 weeks, we lost 300 of our 350 customers. They said, we're not working with you. You're just kids. You don't know what you're doing. And they switched back to the main brands. We'd even launched with a new distributor up in North Queensland, which is like the top end of the country.
Yeah.
And they were moving real quick. And they basically said, yep, we're not working with you. Again, they gave us that you're too young, you got no idea what you're doing line. And that kind of hurt because, yes, we were young, but our factory, they were the ones who were stuffing us around, and they weren't young.
Yeah.
So that was it was pretty crazy, man. We lost 20 grand of cash reserves. We lost 90% of our future income, and it pretty much nearly died. And we kind of, I think at that point we were about a year in, and we thought, you know what, let's just high five each other and say we tried.
And that seems to be the most natural response to something like that. Most natural response to something like that. But you guys decided not to. Why?
There's a few reasons for that, man. I really feel this is something that we were meant to do.
Yeah.
Like, this industry is crazy, and there are so many people who need water. I mean, I can't even imagine living without clean water. What the heck is that, you know? And there's other young people, there's people all around the world in that situation. So we felt like we were driven by the idea. We were driven by this should be out there, you know? And I suppose we weren't driven by dollars and cents. We were driven about actually helping people, and that was enough to push on. You know, for me as well, you know, in my background, like my faith as a Christian, I kind of felt like this is something I was meant to do. And so the knockback, it was discouraging, but I kind of was a little bit encouraged. I'm like, you know what? Let's give this another crack. And so we did. We kind of went for the relaunch of Thankyou Water, and get this right. We launched with a new factory. They actually approached us, they're the biggest in the country, and you know it was all looking good. And we go for the relaunch of Thankyou Water, and we met this one company who said, "Look, we have 4,000 outlets, right, that sell water. We'll get you into 2,000 of the 4,000, right, within about a month."
Yeah.
And we're thinking, what the heck?
You just lost 300. Now you're about to gain 2,000.
So get your calculator out, do 2,000 times anything, and it's a good number. Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, we sent them a truckload of water, thinking we've made it. And about 3 weeks later, we got a letter from an accounting legal firm to say that company had basically gone bankrupt or into liquidation. We're thinking, what the heck? So that means we've just lost all this cash from the whole last issue we had. We lost all our future income. We've now put all our money into hoping these guys can come through, and they're not going to pay the bill.
Yeah.
It's full on, man. So, like, you know, we thought that's as bad as it gets, but it got a fair bit worse from there.
How could it possibly get worse?
So we presented to a couple of retailers who were like medium size, like coffee chain, juice chain kind of guys, and both of them were pretty interested in the concept at the beginning. After 3 months, one of them said, "We're not interested." And then after about 9 months, the other one said, "We're not interested." Now, that was discouraging. What was probably more discouraging, though, was when they both came out with their own bottle of water that went to help, you know, said help build wells and that sort of thing.
Yeah. See, it's kind of hard to get upset at something like that, even though they obviously took your idea. It's the fact that it's still going out to help people that's like, all right. It's like,
correct.
You know, as a Christian, it's like if somebody steals your Bible, you know, it's like, somebody stole my Bible, but all right, they might get a blessing from it. You know, that's how I always thought about something like that. Yeah.
It's sort of like, it was happy, sad. I suppose we were happy, but at the same time, it felt like they weren't doing it properly, if you get what I mean. Like, it felt like it was a little bit of a corporate sort of
ploy
deal that wasn't actually like what we were doing. Yeah, with all of our profits going in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a weird vibe, but it got a bit worse for us, man.
Dude, you probably said it got a bit worse like 10 times so far, and we're only 20 minutes into this.
So look, we're about a year and a half in now, and we presented to one of the biggest supermarket chains in the country. These guys are ridiculous, like huge, right? In Australia, there's pretty much 2 supermarkets that are big and nothing else. So this was one of them. And after 12 months of working with them, right? 12 months. At the beginning, they said, "You've got no chance." Halfway through the year, they said, "You know what? We think there's potential." 1 year later, which is pretty much 2 years into the Thankyou Water journey, they said, "Congratulations, you're in. National range, every store." We are freaking out. Like, this is it. Finally, we've cracked it. Now, we put a call through probably literally a week, 2 weeks later to see where our first order was.
Yeah.
And a new guy picks up the phone. And he says, "I've never heard of Thankyou Water."
New guy.
I called the old guy, and he'd moved to a different part of the supermarket. And he said, "Oh, don't worry, Dan. It's all good. You're in. Like, I've told the new guy, you're definitely in this year." Called him back. Said, it's Dan from Thankyou Water, you know, like underlining that.
Yeah.
He goes, man, I'm not familiar with it. And I said, "Well, look, we've actually worked with you as a supermarket brand for, 12 months, and we're in every store, and I'm calling out to see what the first order is." And he says, no, you're not, mate. I said, he goes, I've got a new strategy. I've got all the big brands. I don't need your little whatever water, is sort of what he called it. And he goes, I don't need that. And I said, well, we have an agreement. And he said, well, no, that's a verbal agreement. And because I'm the new person, I can take it in whatever direction I want. And so that's 2 years in, man. 2 years in, shut down again. But it gets even a bit worse.
As an interviewer, I don't know if I could take any more of this, man.
I know, man. I promise you, though. I promise you it gets good at the end.
Please, man, because, I make this program for aspiring social entrepreneurs. Like, I try to tell them that it's hard, but I want them to tell, that it's nothing but downhill. But continue.
Yeah, man. Well, before it gets better, it got a little worse. We presented to another retailer throughout the journey. I mean, when you've got an idea like this, you knock on every door.
Yeah.
And you want it everywhere, And anyway, we this is a big fast food chain. Now, I'm tempted, but I'm not going to name them, but they're a big fast food chain. And after 1 year of stocking Thankyou Water, could provide between 60,000 and 90,000 people with safe water for the rest of their life from 1 year. This is insane.
Yeah.
And look, we went back and forth with them for a further 9 months, and they said, there's only one thing holding Thankyou Water back, and it's your price. If you can hit the price that we buy water for now, then you're in. And so we worked with the shipping and the transport companies, and we got the price down, and so we were pretty sure that was it. We were in. Now, to give you a bit of a timeline, this is definitely 2.5 years into the journey, and this was it. We were going to be selling probably millions of bottles a year, changing hundreds of thousands of lives. Nice. Now, similar to the supermarket deal, they came back and said, I'll never forget the phone call. This is probably my least favorite line. They said, we won't be going with Thankyou Water. And I was like, but, you said if the price and we were in, like we're in, aren't we? And they said, look, we can't tell you too many of the details, but one of the bigger brands, so tempted to name them, but anyway, one of the bigger brands have done a deal with senior management, and they've locked you guys up for the next 12 months. We can't even talk.
Wow.
And so it's this crazy knockout deal. And I suppose it was a moment like that where we sat back and went, what the heck?
When does it stop?
Yeah, this is crazy. What are we even doing with our lives, Yeah, crazy. Now, do you want to hear the good bit, or do you want me to finish?
Yeah, but I'm not sure how much more I could have taken. Yeah.
Okay. So to give you an idea now, we have over 2,200 stockists across the country. You find Thankyou Water in every 7-Eleven across the country, and we're selling so much product through 7-Eleven. We have another huge retail chain over here that has about 825 stores. We're in every one of their outlets, and those guys have just under 1 million people a day go through the queue, and we're right in the queue. So 1 million people in America doesn't sound big. In Australia, man, we've only got 22 million people, so it's pretty good.
It's huge, yeah.
We've got a vending machine company that we've got right behind it. And we're stocked in hundreds of machines all around the country, and then in our independent side of the business, we've got probably over about 500 to 600 cafes that stock the water as well. So things have picked up massive for us, and a few things changed it. After we had the knockback after knockback, we wrote a letter to the executive producer of a show called Sunrise, which is kind of like your Today Show. It's like a morning program. And I kind of told him our story. And 2 days later, he flew me up to Sydney for a meeting. And he said, look, we want to pitch an idea to you. Is that okay? And I said, say whatever you want, Mr. Reporter Producer. Awesome. And he goes, we want to fly your team to Cambodia, film the projects that you guys have done, film your factory, film the people that stock you, and tell Australia about this incredible product. And I said, okay, good idea. And they did it. And we had a 2-day feature on that program. And that's when things started to shift. The awareness picked up. More people got behind it. from there, I think last year we had 3 features on the number one news program
Yeah.
in Australia. The morning show covered us again, like crazy press through radio. Heaps of different magazines covered the story, and from there it just sort of built this momentum. And to right now, things are going really well. Obviously, we've got a long way to go,
Yeah.
but it's going really well.
Uh, just to go back a little bit. So during this whole period of uncertainty and up and down, how are you guys? How are you guys eating?
How are we eating?
Yeah.
Great question. We didn't eat each other, which is good.
Thank
We
God.
nearly. We actually worked second jobs. So
Okay.
we worked night jobs and weekend jobs for the first 3 years of Thankyou Water. And look, even today, still a lot of our team do. We have 20 people now in our team, mainly volunteer, with a couple of core kind of roles that are paid. But the first 3 years, like one of our guys, Jared, he would come to work at about 10 a.m. in the morning, and he'd finish at about 5. Then he'd go and work a night job from about 8 o'clock at night till about 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. Then he'd go to sleep. Then he'd come to the office and he'd do Thankyou Water, and then he'd go back to work. And pretty hardcore stuff, but that's how we made it through.
And that's what was needed. Let's talk a little bit about your business model. You guys aren't the typical brand. You guys don't donate, a percentage. You guys donate 100% of your profits. Explain to our viewers that probably aren't familiar with how that business model works.
Sure. Well, look, the easiest way to explain it is, let's pick what's a big brand of water in America. Like what's
Poland
big?
Spring.
Okay, so let's say Poland Spring, right? We are literally nearly just like them. We have costs of running the bottle, delivery, people running the company, the whole deal, marketing.
Yeah.
We're exactly the same. Now, the only difference is that between Thankyou Water and them is that all of their profits at the end of the day would go to whoever the shareholders are to make them richer, whatever, right? The difference with Thankyou Water is we still have all the costs involved, but our profits, which is the kind of the meat of the whole deal, they all go to the water projects. And so we're set up like, we're called a social enterprise, but you could nearly call it a charity business.
Yeah.
We're a business, but it all goes to the cause.
You can almost say you're a non-profit, but
Yeah, correct.
yeah.
And so what we say over here is that 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, we exist to fund water projects in the developing nations, full stop. It's like there's nothing more than that. It's not a bit to investors. We don't even have any investors. There's no other beneficiary apart from our partners who carry out the water projects.
I love it, man. Just for the fact that you guys had the courage to go into such a hard industry, man, and still make an impact. That's an amazing thing. Let's talk about the impact a little bit. How do you guys gauge your impact? And tell me about that trip to Cambodia.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll start with the trip. That trip was amazing. I'd actually been a couple of months earlier for the first time, and I got married back in 2010, and my wife, Justine, she's one of the directors at Thankyou Water now. But we went over, we had our honeymoon in Bali, did the whole honeymoon thing, and then we went to Cambodia at the end, and we met up with some of the team, and we toured the projects. And it was a crazy feeling to meet people who were, like, before we were there, they weren't drinking clean water. And we interviewed these families, and, they're saying, oh, well, now we've got clean water. One family said we don't have to, so now we have clean water, we're not sick anymore, and so we can climb the palm trees.
Yeah.
And we were like, awesome, glad we could help.
You know why? This your story personally touches me. I like to share this experience with a lot of people. I went to high school in Jamaica the island, Jamaica, West Indies. And, clean water has always played a large part in my life because there were nights when we would go without water. You know, so that's why that was another reason why I had to get in touch with you guys, because I understand personally up close in front what it means to go without a necessity for days, possibly. You know, so all right, go ahead, carry on with the rest of the story.
Yeah, man. Well, look, just the stories and people, and that, we realize that by providing clean water, because you eliminate that daily issue of going to collect water, people aren't sick anymore,
Yeah.
they're not dying, they can suddenly start building their life. And so we met these families who now they're not sick, they can climb palm trees, get the nuts and crush it into oil that they sell at the market. And they can do this creative stuff that they never could beforehand. So it was a really impacting experience for us, and obviously motivated us to come back to Australia. Whoa, sorry about that.
No problem.
Motivated us to come back to Australia and kind of make it happen,
Yeah.
and grow what we were doing. So that was kind of the beginning, man. But how we measure our impact, there's a few different ways. Obviously, on the field, we're selling. Sorry, man, we've got a bit of action here in the office, but we've helped over 5,500 people get access to safe water for the rest of their life. Now, that's just the beginning. I think this quarter, so we fund projects every quarter, and I think our funding goes out tomorrow, I think. But anyway, the crazy fact is we've raised enough or as much funding in the first 3 months of this year as we did for all of last year.
Wow.
And so we're just like, what the heck? I think in Australia, this time last year, over the whole summer period, we were averaging about 40,000 bottles a month.
Yeah.
That was our average sales rate. This year, over the same 5 months or whatever, we were averaging 190,000. So it jumped right up, and it's about to jump up again. So the figure of 5,500 people, we'll be updating that soon once all the new funding goes out, and it's just going crazy.
Nah, man, that's an amazing feat, man. I'm so proud of you guys, man. And, just because I know that you guys are really making a genuine impact, man. Am I leaving anything out of this amazing story?
Man, I think you got it all covered. I mean, there's probably one thing that we've realized, which is become the power in the Thankyou Water brand. And I know it sounds a bit cliche, but the idea of people power, or people getting behind it. We have a pretty loyal following on social media, about 22,000 people. And that's here in Australia. And I look at some of the Facebook groups in America and I'm like, man, they're massive. But for Australia, it's doing pretty good. And we have a very active community, and they've been an integral role in helping us grow awareness and get into retailers and kind of get the word out there. So I think that's a obviously really important part of our journey.
Yeah, man. I was going to ask you if there was anything else you would want to leave with social entrepreneurs that are watching this program. But I think that probably covered it. But if there is, what else would you tell entrepreneurs that are watching this that want to start their social enterprise?
I think there's a few things. To kind of remember. I mean, we've got this one line, and we really love it. We kind of built it into the values in our organization. And it says, I think we ripped it off. It's some quote from somewhere, but it says this. It says, impossibility is only someone's opinion, not a fact. And I love that. I mean, if you think about like a classic example, Neil Armstrong goes to land on the moon. Now, before all that happened, people would have said, well, no, it'd be impossible to land man on the moon. Yeah. Now, we know it happened, so it wasn't impossible. It was just their opinions it was impossible. Yeah. The amount of times we got told, you'll never do it, you'll never come up with the money. Even if you did, how would you run it? You've got no experience. If we'd taken all that advice, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Yeah. But you've got to kind of push past what other people think. And look, that's one thing. I think another thing to kind of take with you is this idea that success isn't everything going well. Like there's this great definition that says success can be defined as the ability to turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Yeah. Now think about that. I mean, our journey was that 100%. Knock back, but we learnt every time. That was our training ground. That's where we grew.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
where you got your experience.
Yeah, man. So look, that's a couple of things I'll leave with you. But I think it's always important as well to have a team around you, because if it's a one person, it's a lonely road, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're interviewing me now, which is great, but there is a whole team of us. And in the early days, there was 5 of us, and we were hardcore, and you know, we had that vision, and now the team has grown. But without that, it wouldn't happen.
Awesome, man. Man, Daniel, this has been such a great interview. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Flynn, the founder of Thankyou Water. Daniel, thanks for coming on the program, man.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.